Louis Grenier. So he's kind of like a brother from another mother, because he, more or less the same time as me, discovered curiosity and interest for differentiation. He's been teaching differentiation to people, running workshops. He has another one coming up in February, I think. And so, yeah, so Louis will actually tell us what are the things you need to do to make your product or service radically stand out. So Louis, can we have you on the stage? Here you go. Welcome.
I'm already there.
And
I missed your cue.
Take it away, Louis. The floor is yours.
All right, thanks. Bonjour, everyone. As Pep said, I'm going to share the 5 steps to radically stand out, and I'm going to share my screen right now. So just give me 1 second. There we go. There we go. All right, so radically stand out. As Pep said, that's something that I've been kind of studying for a long time now, very curious about it for a long time, reading a lot of books on the topic and really trying to find ways to learn myself how to actually stand out when there's so much clutter out there, when there is so much going on. Everyone with a brain and an internet connection can literally, create something, sell something, create an agency, become a freelancer, become a creator. So this topic of standing out is very close to my heart. However, this is how it feels when you start studying the topic. Everyone will tell you you need to stand out. You need to be different. You need to tell stories. You need to be controversial. It's incredibly difficult, if not impossible at this stage, to find actual resources to teach you how to actually do it. And this meme is a proper summary, I feel, of the topic. You can find a lot of books on it, but they really don't tell you the steps. They just make you guess. It's up for you to decide and what to do. And that always kind of pissed me off. So I decided to do something about it a few years ago, studied the space for a long time, did a few projects, failed, and I'll share with you what I've learned from those mistakes. So when we talk about radical differentiation, we talk about the top right-hand corner, the yellow box there. Radical differentiation is about creating something that is both different from the rest and compelling for the people you seek to serve. It's not exactly like creating a niche product, because some niches are actually very busy. So you could be the same than anyone else in the niche. Yes, your market might be smaller, but you still compete in a very crowded market. Then you have like those stunts and growth hacks and anything that you want to have people pay attention to you, and so you try to use some tricks to make people notice you. But without a good product that is compelling, it's just boring, and you're just different for the sake of being different. That's in blue in the top left. And then finally, you have mass products that are both boring and the same, and we just simply can't compete with mass product because they don't play in the same battlefield. So that was me a long time ago. I always wanted to stand out. I think it was some sort of defense mechanism to make my mom pay attention to me, to be perfectly honest with you. And so I had red hair in this picture. I always liked to do that when I was a kid and to make people notice me. And I think that was kind of ingrained in my, I wouldn't say DNA, but in my mind. And along the way, I kind of lost myself. So I created a marketing agency years ago, and I bought this beautiful 3-piece suit, as you can see, took those very cheesy pictures in the city center of Dublin, Ireland, because I thought that's what people expected of me. To be a marketing consultant, you need to wear a 3-piece suit and you need to look boring and very serious. And that was a big mistake of mine. I burned out in the process. I learned that trying to do like everything else, like everyone else, and just follow everyone else is not going to work for me. And it certainly didn't feel like myself. It felt like a very, watered down version of myself. So after that, realizing my mistakes, I've done a few things, including launching a contrarian marketing podcast called Everyone Hates Marketers. At this stage, it reached more than 1 million downloads without ads, with marketing, but without ads. Also worked for Hotjar, where we worked on revamping the positioning there. Got lucky enough to talk to a lot of my mentors and people I admired, like Seth Godin. And today I want to share the lessons I've learned. So I've distilled them down in 5 steps. And here they are. So first step, getting rid of your self-limiting beliefs. This is the biggest step. What I realized studying the topics a long time ago is that radical differentiation in general, comes from here, your mind. Your mind plays tricks on you that prevents you from taking risk and actually standing out. And so this is the first step. You might think, but standing out is very risky. It might fail. Well, the other side of it is that if you don't stand out, it's very likely that you will fail. As I said earlier on, there's so much clutter online, so much going on. If you don't take some risk, it's going to be extremely risky for you. So standing out is not risky. Not standing out is risky. The second self-limiting belief is about, everyone else is doing this way. Everyone else is creating, average product for average people. We should do the same. And that comes down to, our hunter-gatherer mindset, where to create a society where everything works together, you kind of follow each other. You want to make sure you don't seek out, because if you go on your own in the forest and in this cave, you might get caught by a bear or something like that, right? So you want to follow the crowd. You want to make sure you're safe. That's not the case of modern society anymore. If you want to be noticed, if you want to make sure that you sell your product or service, you're going to have to stick your head out and try new things. And so it's not about everyone else is doing it this way, and therefore we must follow them. It's everyone else is doing it this way, therefore we must do something different. Finally, the last self-limiting belief that I see a lot is that, if we narrow down our market to this one particular segment, if we narrow down our product to do this one thing very well, we're going to miss out on everything else. And that's from a very good book called The Paradox of Choice that I very much encourage you to read. The problem with that belief is that we work hard to keep all of our options open. So we want to make sure we don't miss anything. But instead, what that does is that we forget about what we may miss. So if you're a marketing consultant, like I used to do, where you're just trying to target everyone and every company in the world and for any type of services, you may miss expertise, you may miss more credibility, more trust, you may miss deeper knowledge in a specific area, and therefore you may miss more money. And that's the way to think about this, the narrowing down. And the other side of it, which is very interesting, is from the customer standpoint, the more choice available to them in front of them, the less happy they're going to be about their final choice. And that's not something that we see being talked a lot about, but that's still very important, meaning that when people have so many products to pick from in the same category and they're all the same, they're going to feel less happy about the ultimate choice that they make. And instead, if you are the only choice in that category, if you do this thing very well for this particular segment, they are going to feel happier because they knew that they had no choice but pick you. And that's the beauty of radical differentiation. So removing your self-limiting belief, step one. Step two, defining your minimum viable market. And I know what you're thinking right now when you read minimum viable market. You're scared, we might lose out on making more money if we pick a very small market. We're not going to make ends meet. That's not what it means. Minimum viable means it's small enough for you to really obsess over and to own, but it's big enough for you to make money out of. So this little green part of your brain is called the orbital frontal cortex. Very interesting part of the brain because it's all about the way customers make decisions, and people like you and me make decisions. So the OFC, in short, is very important when it comes to making decisions. And your job as a marketer, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a creator, is to understand that. People make decisions based on their OFC. The OFC assigns a value based on the goals and the rewards that people seek to get, right? And our behavior, what we do, is then driven by the difference between where we are, our actual state, and where we want to go, our desired state. So that doesn't mean just where we are physically, but also mentally. What is the person that we want to become? The OFC decides that based on the value that it assigns. And that's very important. It's very important because it connects to the job to be done, thinking, which is a way to understand how people make decisions. And every time I think about this problem, I think about it in terms of this hill, right? You have a trigger that starts, your customer wants to grow up that hill in order to get this desired outcome in the right. They have this desire to go, they want to solve that big pain. However, they also have anxiety, about the current solution. They have habits that they have that is difficult to pull them out of. And your job as a marketer, as a creator, as an entrepreneur is simply to make them move into that hill. So how do you do that? I would argue that whatever business you have, if it's a small business and you want to make sure that you stand out, you need to identify customers based on 4 criteria. And the first criteria is not the money you're going to make out of them, is how much do you like hanging out with them, how much do you like talking to them, how much do you like, participating in the same events than them, and all of that. The second one is, do you have access to them? It might sound like a silly question, but do you actually have a way to reach out to them? Do you have friends, contacts in this industry, in the market that you seek to serve? Third, do they have a big pain? A big pain you want to solve. A big pain that is, they're willing to do something about it. And then finally, yes, do they make money for you? If you have current customers, are they able to pay? Are they able to give you enough money for you to sustain yourself? And those 4 criteria are very important because they make you decide on your best customers. And the very practical step I want to give you today is to talk to, at the very least, 3 of your customers and to act like a journalist, meaning you're not trying to sell them anything, you're trying to just listen and hear their issues and all of that. I'm going to share in the next few slides a few questions that you can screenshot. And anyway, those slides will be available in PDF at the end of the events, and you'll have the recording as well, so you can come back to them. If you don't have customers already, talk to customers of alternative solutions that sell roughly to the same market, roughly in the same category. If you don't have customers yourself, recent customers in particular, you're going to learn a ton from them, even if they're not your customers. So those are the questions that are very important to ask. And those relate to the hill I showed you earlier on. What you want to understand is what happened in the day when they decided to do something, right? After that, how did they go about researching the solutions to go up that hill? What potential other solutions did they start looking into? What is the one thing that made them confident to pick you instead of someone else? And then, now that they have the product or service, what's the one thing they're able to do that they weren't able to do before? And then one question that I really rarely see that is super important in radical differentiation, and you'll see in the next step why. What is the one thing you hate the most about our industry or our category? I love that question. It brings so many interesting insights. It really helps you to engineer something that is different. And again, I'll show you that in the next few steps. So then your goal is to go to the edge of the map, meaning you don't want to pick a segment that is just average. They don't really care. They don't really love you. They don't really care. No, you want to go to the edge of the map. And what it means is, it's not about demographics. It's not about having a segment age between 20 and 40 years old based in the United States. That doesn't mean anything. It means picking people who stays literally awake at night staring at the ceiling because they suffer from the problem you solve. It means people who want to reach their goals so much, they want to go to the top of that hill so much that they are begging almost for a solution like yours. They love you. People like them love you because they believe in the same thing than you do. They hate what you hate, is another interesting thing to look into. And then very importantly as well, because we are here to make money as a business, who has money to pay, who can say yes, who can take the decision to pay for your product. My favorite show is The Office, and this is a great scene on the right, snip, snap, snip, snap, about Michael Scott's third vasectomy, I think, that she made him do. Anyway, switching back and forth between markets is something that I see a lot. You switch back and forth between segments. Oh, we are going to go after them. Oh no, then we're going to go after them. Has an impact on your business and your own well-being. And you must seek tranquility by picking a market that you validate, by interviewing people, talking to them, so that you're very confident this is the way to go. Switching back and forth is kind of the paradox of choice issue. If you don't stick to something, it's going to be very difficult to radically stand out. Step 3 is to identify your status quo. The status quo is the thing you're going to use to mobilize people to pay attention to you. And a little bit of a confession, I used to be a conspiracy theorist when I was very young, and I regret it, of course, today. But conspiracy theorists and marketers and creators have something in common. They seek a kind of an enemy outside in the world so that they understand the world in a better way, right? Conspiracy theorists have so much anxiety about the world and the way things happen very randomly that they need to put things into a box so they understand it better and name this box or this enemy. And that gives them comfort. Your job as a marketer, as a creator, as an entrepreneur is the same. You want to give comfort to your customers by pointing at an enemy, a status quo, that they can understand that causes the pain that they are feeling. So just an illustration of that, as I told you earlier, I used to work for Hotjar, did a lot of the work I just talked to you about. And our status quo was that traditional web analytics tool helps you to analyze traffic data, but they don't tell you what users really do on your website. And that's the way we framed everything around. We didn't frame it against direct competitors, which is a big mistake. We framed it against the status quo, the things that our segment was particularly using right now to try to solve their pain. So there's two big mistakes to avoid when you pick a status quo. Your status quo is not and rarely your direct competitor. It's the thing they do instead of using you. And most of the time, it's not your competitor. The second thing is not to name a particular company or person. You hate the game, not the player. So that prevents you from having too many enemies. So as a example of Hotjar, the way you can just frame the status quo very quickly, and you understand almost instantly what the solution does without even mentioning it. Traditional analytics leave you in the dark because they can't show you what users really do on your website. That's a statement. And then you might have noticed at the very start what I said. Experts never explain how to actually stand out because they want you to figure out. My status quo are the experts who never tell you how to actually stand out step by step. Now, step 4, we're nearly there. Engineering your radical differentiation. Now everything comes together. You're going to use the data you have from your customers and non-customers and your status quo to engineer something very fun. The statement you want at the end is as follows. We are the only category that provides this value, meaning it solves this problem or helps you to reach that goal for that very specific minimum viable market. You're going to reach radical differentiation if you have those 3 things. The intersection of the 3 things is what matters. And when you change one, you change the rest. When you change a category, you change the value you provide, you change potentially the market. So it's a cycle that you need to go through quite regularly. And the most important word and verb here when it comes to differentiation is remove. We have a tendency to add stuff. We want to make sure we please everyone and we add features and we add services and whatnot. No, it's the opposite that you must seek. We must remove anything that doesn't elevate what customers already love about you. We must ruthlessly remove stuff. We must remove stuff that people consider to be cliches that they hate. Remember the question, what are the things that you hate about the category or the industry? That's so helpful to remove stuff. And we must remove stuff that doesn't solve the biggest pain that you're seeking to solve. And by removing anything, I mean anything that is more or less related to the customer experience from the customer point of view. So it doesn't have to be your product. It could be the way you do your marketing, your promotion. It could be the way your distribution works. It could be the emails you send. It's anything in the customer journey. And then, yes, you can add a few things, but very carefully. You add a few things that customer love, you elevate that, and then anything that would solve their biggest pain. So quick example here, you can plot that in a graph, plot what people currently do in the category, and then you. I'm not about politics, just want to give you an example. That was a French party launched by the current president a few years ago. He went from being almost a nobody to elected president, and that's because he almost removed all the career politicians from his party, almost removed all the corporate donors, and they launched this transparent diagnosis in the entire country. And that helped him to go above the right versus left debate and elevate his his political party. This one is from the start of the previous century about Pepsodent, when you were cleaning your teeth. That wasn't actually something people used to do. The actual solution in black was actually this massive jar of toothpaste that was almost impossible to use. It was great for storage, but texture was pretty bad because it was based with a little bit of coal in it. So very, very bad for your mouth and all of that. And so when Pepsodent came up with this tube, texture went up, the ease of use went up, storage was much better, and they added the freshness element. And that was a big deal, and that worked. So again, you can see the radical differentiation in action. Finally, once you have that, step 5, jolting people into action. We are either taking a habit-based decision or a value-based decision. We need, as marketers, creators, entrepreneurs, to jolt people outside of their habits. Most of the time, you're going to compete against habits that people currently have. If you want them to think about a value-based decision using the OFC, this is what it takes. Again, think about it this way. Your job is really to fight against this habit, the inertia pulling them into where they currently are, and to fight against this anxiety that they're feeling right now about potentially trying a new solution. So 3 ideas for you to look into, and then I'll leave you with a very quick example. 1 is radical clarity. Use your customer words and simplify your message. Keep it simple. 2 is radical generosity. Very much like a chef writing recipe books after recipe books. Share everything you know for free. Just follow what PayPlay has been doing for years. And then radical confidence. Challenge the status quo with authority. Show what you're made of. Fight the good fight against the status quo you've identified. So I want to leave you with that, which is a business card from a burger joint based in Dublin. Their menu fits on a business card like that. They only have 1 burger. You either pick a normal or double. That's it. No chicken burger, nothing else. They removed almost everything to elevate that burger. And to have the guts to do something like that is what I want to inspire you with today. It takes guts to do it, but it's so good to do it. They've grown since then, but they've remained true to this radical differentiation. 1 burger, either like 1 or double, everything is on a business card. So again, as a summary, get rid of your beliefs, define your minimum viable market, engineer uniqueness using customers' interviews, identify the status quo, and then jolt people out of their habits into action. That's what I have for you.
Much, Louis. I learned a thing or two. I have also questions. So you mentioned some of those, let's say, historical examples. Can you name a brand that is more recent, like modern brand that entered a saturated, well-established category and then got market share through differentiation?
Yes, although I'm always very careful. And the reason why I'm always very careful not to give too many examples of brands that we currently know is because they've been backed by a lot of ad budgets and a lot of marketing budgets, millions, in fact. And so to pull off that deal and to have companies that are very well known now, they moved away from that tactic, that strategy of differentiation all the way to being known by everyone. So I think, Drift is the example that everyone talks about when they started this way, but there's plenty of smaller stuff. There is this all these infomercials that you see on TV that have this one unique feature that is different from the rest. What comes to mind is, I don't know if you've seen it, this they are fighting against the tangled hoses in your garden, and they provide you with this pocket hose that you can literally fit in your pocket, right? And I love this example because that's exactly the textbook radical differentiation. They know they are not necessarily going to become these massive stable products that everyone uses, but they engineer it so that they do one thing very well and remove everything else.
Cool. Well, there are some questions from the audience too. Let's see how many we can get to. Question number 1 here is, in a 15-person team, how can you put your point to remove some feature in a product? So I guess if there are conflicting opinions inside the team, how do you get on the same page?
Yeah. So the first thing is to reconsider marketing. Marketing is not communications or advertising. Marketing is about everything about what the market think, how they behave, and you should be able to influence the product inside an organization. And so that's the first thing, is to reconsider what marketers truly are in your team, I would say. Marketers are there to influence the product as much as anything else. So it starts with, I would say, doing a hard reset, forgetting about the product we currently sell, and just obsessing over that market, identifying the segments, this minimum viable market, and then thinking about, okay, how can we help them solve their pain the best way? And then, yes, maybe your product is a good answer, but you're going to have to remove stuff if you really want to be the best for them, the best in the category. And that doesn't necessarily mean features. So feature set is one thing, but what I mentioned earlier is it's all about the customer experience overall. So the before, the during, and the after as well. Anything that you can remove to elevate one of the key strengths that you have is, I would say, the solution. But yeah, it starts with having a common understanding of that definition of what marketing truly is.
Thank you. Another question. Name. How much does the company's name influence differentiation, and how should you go about choosing a name for a company?
So let me give you a bit of radical transparency, should I say? I'm not an expert in naming. I think Seth Godin and Martin Neumeyer, who wrote the book Zag, talk about it way better than I do. I had some luck with naming before, also very bad luck. I mean, I worked for Hotjar before, and they picked the name on purpose so that it's unique and easy to pronounce. Everyone Hates Marketers is an extremely contrarian name that I picked on purpose. I didn't know if it would work. It did. But yes, follow the advice from people who have way more experience than me in naming. Seth Godin, if you search for it, you'll find a blog post of his. And then in the book Zag by Martin Neumeyer, he talks about it as well.
Yeah, I would also add here that don't have a descriptive literal name. It's really hard to brand that, because like if you are SEO guys and you're an SEO firm, like this is like, if you describe what you do in a name, it's like very easy to get lost in the category and not be its own thing. All right, time's up. Louis, thank you so much. You've been amazing. We'll catch you on the internet. Everybody Hates Marketers. Give it a listen, guys. It's a great podcast. All right.
Thanks, Ned.